The most powerful man in the world felt like a slave. Around 170 AD, Marcus Aurelius ruled the Roman Empire. Absolute power, unlimited wealth, command over millions, and every night he wrote in his journal about how trapped he felt. Trapped by duty, by expectations, by the weight of his position. He had everything anyone could want and felt completely imprisoned. So he turned to philosophy, not to feel better, not to cope, to actually become free. And what he discovered changed everything. Real freedom has nothing to do with your circumstances. Most people still haven't learned this. In ancient Rome, freedom was a legal status. You were either free or enslaved. Citizens had rights. Slaves had none. Simple, clear, everyone believed your external conditions determined your freedom. Get more power, more money, more control over your life, and you'd be free. Marcus had all of that. Maximum external freedom. And he felt more trapped than most slaves. Because he understood something nobody else did. External freedom means nothing if your mind is still in chains. Today you chase the same illusion. You think freedom is quitting your job, getting rich, moving somewhere new, having no responsibilities, doing whatever you want whenever you want. And people who achieve all that are still miserable, still anxious, still trapped. Because freedom isn't about what you can do. It's about how you think. So what did Marcus understand that we keep missing? Marcus wrote this in his private journal, never meant for anyone else to read. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Read that again. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Most people spend their entire lives trying to control outside events, trying to make circumstances align, trying to force the world to be what they want it to be. That's slavery. That's the most complete form of imprisonment there is. Because you're enslaved to things you can't control. Real freedom is recognizing what you actually control. Your thoughts, your judgments, your responses, your character. That's it. Everything else is outside your power. And the moment you stop trying to control what you can't control and start mastering what you can, you become free. Not free from difficulty. Free within difficulty. That's the difference. Marcus ruled an empire during a plague, constant wars, betrayals, and personal tragedy. His circumstances were objectively terrible. He had every reason to feel like a victim, to complain, to demand better. Instead, he wrote about how to maintain freedom regardless of what happened around him. Because he understood that complaining about circumstances you can't change is just choosing to be a slave to those circumstances. Watch how this works. Someone insults you. That's outside your control. Your reaction to the insult. Completely in your control. Most people give away that control immediately. They let the insult determine their emotional state for hours or days. They've made themselves a slave to someone else's words. Marcus would say, you just volunteered for imprisonment. Or you don't get the outcome you wanted. The promotion, the relationship, the opportunity, that's outside your control. How you interpret that outcome? In your control, whether you let it define you. In your control, whether you use it as information or identity. In your control, most people surrender all of that control. They let external outcomes dictate their internal state. That's not freedom. That's the opposite. Here's what Marcus kept coming back to. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This sounds like a riddle. It's not. He's saying, obstacles don't block your path. They are your path. The difficulty is where you practice freedom. The constraint is where you develop strength. The limitation is where you discover what you're actually capable of. Most people see obstacles as problems to be removed. Marcus saw them as opportunities to practice philosophy, to practice freedom. Every difficult situation is a chance to prove that your internal state doesn't depend on external conditions. That's not optimism, that's training. You're training yourself to be free regardless of circumstances. Think about what imprisons you. Really think about it. Probably not actual chains. Probably your thoughts about your situation. Your story about why you can't do something. Your belief that you need certain conditions to be okay. Your attachment to outcomes. Your resistance to what is. All of that is self-created imprisonment. And all of it is optional. Marcus had legitimate external constraints. He couldn't just walk away from being emperor. He had duties he didn't choose, responsibilities he couldn't abandon. But he refused to let those external constraints create internal constraints. He couldn't control being emperor. He could control how he thought about being emperor. He couldn't control the wars and plagues. He could control his response to them. This is what philosophy meant to him. Not abstract theory, not intellectual games. A practical tool for liberation. Every day, he practiced seeing things clearly, judging accurately, responding wisely, not letting external chaos create internal chaos. That's freedom. Not freedom from difficulty, freedom within difficulty. Freedom that no circumstance can touch because it exists entirely in how you use your mind. You're trapped right now, not by your job or your relationships or your circumstances, by your thoughts about them, by your demand that they be different, by your resistance to what is, by your attachment to what could be. All of that is mental imprisonment you're choosing every moment, and you can stop choosing it any moment. Someone treats you unfairly at work, external event, outside your control. You spend 3 days angry and resentful. That's you choosing imprisonment. You could choose differently, not by pretending it's okay, not by being passive, by recognizing what you control and what you don't. You control whether you let it define your week. You control whether you document it and act strategically. You control whether you maintain your own standards regardless of theirs. Or your plans fall apart. Something you wanted doesn't happen. External event, outside your control. You spiral into disappointment and self-pity. That's you choosing slavery to circumstances. Marcus would say, you're making yourself dependent on the world cooperating with your preferences. That's the least free you can possibly be. Because the world doesn't care about your preferences. Here's the practice. Every time something happens that you don't like, pause. Ask, what can I actually control here? Not, what do I wish I could control? What do I actually control? Usually it's just your response, your interpretation, your next action. That's it, and that's enough. Because freedom lives in that space between what happens and how you respond. That space is the only territory that's truly yours. Everything else can be taken. Marcus knew this intimately. People he trusted betrayed him. Plans he made failed. People he loved died. He watched his children die. He couldn't prevent any of it. But he could prevent those external tragedies from destroying his internal freedom. He could maintain clarity in chaos, strength in adversity, purpose in suffering, not because he was superhuman, because he practiced using his mind correctly. This is what liberates. Not getting what you want. Not avoiding difficulty. Not controlling circumstances. Understanding what you control and mastering it completely. That's philosophy that actually works. Philosophy that frees you from dependency on things you can't control. Philosophy that makes you unconquerable because nothing external can touch what's internal. Right now, list what makes you feel trapped. Your job, your finances, your relationships, your health, your past, your future. All of it. Now ask honestly, how much of this feeling of being trapped comes from the circumstances themselves versus your thoughts about the circumstances? Probably 90% is your thoughts. That means 90% of your imprisonment is self-created, which means 90% of your freedom is available right now by thinking differently. Marcus didn't escape being emperor. He escaped being enslaved by being emperor. He didn't escape difficulty. He escaped being enslaved by difficulty. He didn't escape suffering. He escaped being destroyed by suffering. The difference is everything, and it's available to you. Not by changing your circumstances, by changing how you use your mind within those circumstances. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Stop trying to control what you can't. Start mastering what you can. That's the only freedom that matters. The only freedom that lasts. The only freedom no one can take from you. Everything else is just a longer chain pretending to be liberty. The most powerful man in the world found freedom through philosophy. You can do the same, not by gaining power over circumstances, by gaining power over your own mind. That's liberation. Subscribe if this made you think.